Copy-paste still works on Mac. Your fingers just refuse to believe it. I spent the first week of my migration hitting Ctrl+C and staring at text that refused to copy. The Mac wasn't broken. My muscle memory was just running firmware from a different operating system. This is the one friction point nobody warns you about clearly enough, and it has a real trade-off hiding inside it. Here's what actually happened. Day 1, I'm in VS Code. I go to copy a block of code, Ctrl+C, nothing. I try to save, Ctrl+S, nothing. I try undo, Ctrl+Z, nothing. I'm not a beginner. I've been writing software for over a decade, and I spent a non-trivial chunk of my first morning wondering if my keyboard was defective. It wasn't. On macOS, the primary modifier for GUI actions, copy, paste, save, select all, undo, is Command, not Control. That's the key with the symbol, sitting right where Alt lives on a Windows layout. Ctrl still exists on the Mac keyboard. It just does something different, and that difference is the whole problem. So the obvious fix sounds simple. Just swap Ctrl and Command. macOS even has a native option for this. System Settings, Keyboard, Modifier keys. You can remap Command to Control and vice versa in about 30 seconds. I did it. It felt great for exactly 1 hour. Then I opened a terminal. Here's the failure mode nobody leads with. Ctrl on macOS is not just a GUI modifier. It carries Unix terminal control sequences. Ctrl+C sends SIGINT to interrupt a process. Ctrl+Z suspends it. Ctrl+Z closes STDIN. If you do a blanket swap of Ctrl and Command, you've now mapped those signals to the Command key, and your terminal behavior gets weird fast. You're fighting two systems at once. The software-level swap that feels like a fix in Finder and VS Code becomes a liability the moment you're in a shell. I tried Karabiner-Elements next. It's the de facto open-source remapping tool on macOS, and it's more surgical. You can write rules that swap modifiers only in specific applications. So Command behaves like Ctrl in your browser and editor, but the terminal is excluded from the rule entirely. That's closer to the right answer. But it's also configuration work, and it's fragile across OS updates. The other option I looked at was hardware-level remapping, QMK or VIA-compatible keyboards that let you define modifier behavior in firmware, per layer, regardless of what OS you're on. That's the cleanest architectural solution. The keyboard handles the abstraction. The OS never sees the conflict. The cost is you need the right hardware, and you need to invest time in the firmware config. 3 tools are worth naming here. Karabiner-Elements is the power user standard on macOS. Open source, highly configurable, and the right call if you want app-scoped remapping without touching hardware. The trade-off is complexity and occasional breakage after macOS updates. Microsoft PowerToys Keyboard Manager is the Windows side equivalent. Useful if you're going the other direction, Mac-first user on a Windows box who wants to mirror Apple layout expectations. And KeyClue is a different category entirely. It's a shortcut discovery overlay. Hold a modifier key and it shows you what's available in the current app. It doesn't remap anything. It just reduces the cognitive load of not knowing what the Mac equivalent of a shortcut is while you're still in the translation phase. I used it a lot in weeks 2 and 3. It's not a fix for muscle memory, but it's a useful scaffold while you're building it. Here's where I landed after a few weeks. The productivity dip is real. Cross-platform guides and developer threads consistently describe a 2 to 4 week friction window when you're alternating between operating systems without any remapping. That matches my experience. My Monday recommendation is this: do not do a blanket modifier swap. The terminal conflict alone makes it not worth it. Instead, use Karabiner-Elements with app-scoped rules that exclude your terminal emulator. If you're on programmable hardware, push the remapping to firmware. It's the cleanest separation of concerns and it survives OS updates. Use KeyClue as a temporary scaffold, not a permanent crutch. And accept that the terminal is the one place where Ctrl stays Ctrl on purpose. That's not a bug in the Mac. That's Unix. The muscle memory for copy-paste and GUI apps will rewire faster than you expect. Probably inside 2 weeks if you commit to not using a blanket remap as a crutch. The harder habit to break is reaching for Ctrl in the terminal and expecting it to do GUI things. It never did. You just never noticed before. That's the modifier key problem. Documented honestly, no native OS fix exists for this as of mid-2026. Apple and Microsoft haven't shipped anything that harmonizes this without breaking terminal workflows. You're choosing between software remapping with known failure modes, hardware remapping with upfront investment, or just grinding through the muscle memory reset. I went with Karabiner plus a programmable keyboard, and the friction is mostly gone now. Sources for all three tools are in the description. Next episode, window management, because CMD plus tab is not what you think it is.